Okay, hello RuneScape 4 fans, this is RuneScape 4, and today we're actually going to go over some of the Black Ops weapons used in Call of Duty Black Ops. Now, Black Ops takes place during the Vietnam War, which was 1960 to 1965. So the weapons we're going to be talking about are the ones that actually did not exist. So how could they actually be in this game? Also, factual errors with the guns. So let's begin. First off, we got the ASP-9, which is a sidearm that can be used both in single player and multiplayer, and can be got in the mystery box, I do believe. Now, that gun wasn't actually designed and used until 1970. So, how could that even exist in the game? Then we got the Python 357 Magnum. Also, the ASP-9 is a 9x19mm, but the 357 Magnum Python, when you actually get the stub-nose ability in full player, I believe, the single player campaign, you can actually pick one up. Also, in multiplayer, you can unlock it as an attachment. But the stub-nose, it says it will actually decrease the kick and increase the range. But in reality, it would actually increase the kick and decrease the range due to the cycling of the gas when the gun is fired. Now then, we get the CZ75, and what it's actually called is the Pre-BC75. That's the actual official name. It's a 9mm pistol, and the actual factual error of this gun is the real magnum amount, the mag amount, is actually 16 rounds. And that's the standard round magazine, and it wasn't actually invented until 1975. So yeah. And the actual auto kit, which can be unlocked in the multiplayer, and I believe maybe in the single player mode during Collinwood, I think that's where it can be unlocked or played as well. But the actual kit for that wasn't invented until 1992, a couple years before I was born. Now then, we got the Macra PM, which is a 9x18mm, and for some reason, it's more powerful than the M1911. Now, the M1911 is a .45 ACP. Now, this is the A1 model. The Colt M1911 used in World at War, Sniper's Elite Zombie, that is a .45 auto. The .45 APC has a little bit more kick to it, and it's more closer to the 50 Action Express of a Desert Eagle. But, for some reason, a 9mm Makarov PM is more powerful than the Colt M1911. And like I said, 9mm. That's what you give your kids to shoot for their first gun, or a .38. You know, lower caliber weapons. Now, then, we got the MP5K. Now, the MP5 was actually invented during the 1950s, but the MP5K, which is used in the game, was not actually made until the 1976, and it uses a 9x19mm round. Now, the Kipris, or the KBP Instrument Design Bureau, OTS-02, official name, that's why they went with Kipris, is a 9x18mm Makarov, and was actually developed in 1976. So yeah, that takes place a little bit more after the Vietnam War. So again, how is this weapon even in the game? Did Treyarch not do their research like me? Because I actually just spent an hour researching all this. There's 2.5 pages here to go. And we're not even at the bottom yet. Okay, so now we got the Ingram Mac 11, which is a .308 ACP. That was not designed until 1972. Now then, we got the PM63 RAK, or the PM63, which is a 9x18mm. It was made in 1965, not 1963. So, this is a factual error for the in-game. It was used during the Vietnam War. However, on the mission, one of the missions that take place in 1963, and I believe that was Collingwood where you can use it, but Collingwood took place in 1963. The gun was made in 1965. So, did Mason jump ahead and... or not Mason, maybe it was Mason. Either way, did they just jump in the future, grab it? Okay. I really should have actually numbered these, so that way I remember which number I'm on. Okay, here we go. The SITES Spectre M4... just M4 for the game, is a 9x18mm, and this gun, get it, was not made until 1980, well after the Vietnam War ended. Okay, now we got the Walter MPL, which is a 9x19mm, holds 24 rounds, not 32 rounds. So that's the actual factual error. The gun was actually used in the Vietnam War, so they were correct on that. Okay, so now then we get the AK-47, which is a 5.45 by 39mm, and this gun was not actually designed until 1974. So even the variation, the AK-74U, which is actually the AKS-74U, which is again the 5.45 by 39mm, was also designed in 1974 in Russia. Yeah. Okay, so the GAV-5AH, which is what we would call the Commando, which is the fish's name, is a 5.56 by 45mm. That is actually the closest gun I could find that actually resembles the Commando that was actually used during the Vietnam War. And the resemblance of the two guns are very, very, very close. So maybe they just modified it slightly and called it the Commando. Okay, so the Enfield XL64, which is a 4.85 by 49mm, was made in the mid-70s. Now, there was a model of the Enfield which was actually made during that time and could actually have been used, but they used the XL64 model, which was not during the Vietnam War. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we're good. The FAMAS F1 Felon was a 5.56.45mm. It did not exist until 1978. However, that's when it was thought of, designed, but it actually wasn't created and used until 1990. Okay, now we get the FG-42. I believe the FG-42 can be used in the Nazi zombies. Either way, it's a 7.92 by 57mm Mauser, holds 32 rounds and not instead of 20. So it should be using 32, so they cheated you out some rounds. Now then we got the G11. Now then the G11 did not actually come out during the Vietnam War whatsoever, because the G11 is a 4.73 by 33mm. It wasn't developed until 1980, and a working prototype wasn't actually designed until 1970. Also, without the scopes, you can see iron sights. The gun in real life does not have iron sights. Okay, so now then we got the IMI Gale ARM, or just Gale. Now then, there's a 5.56 by 45mm, developed in 1960s, not serviced until 1973. So it was created during the 1960s, but was not actually used by any military until 1973. And then we got the Steyr AUG. Now we all love the AUG, which is a 5.56 by 45mm. Notice a lot of these guns have similar calibers, however, some of the models seem to say they're more powerful than others. Something doesn't seem right there as well. But anyway, the Steyr AUG wasn't patented until 1974, and it wasn't used by any armies until 1977. So again, way after Vietnam War. See? Now we're going to flip it over and continue. So now we got the Beretta Model 1682, which is actually named after the Watwell Skeet Olympia. Now we know that as the Olympia. And both guns are a 12 gauge, although the Olympia is a skeet shotgun, and the Olympia was not invented until 1972, and the actual gun, which was designed after the Olympia, was not actually used until 1985. So yeah, that's definitely a big time gap there. Okay, now the Spaz 12. This one actually, that and the Colt 1911, what's gotten me started on this list. That was the G11. For the fact that I know that there's factual arrows with those guns, and several of them were not made during the Vietnam era, and the Spaz 12 is one of them. And there are several things wrong with this I would like to point out. Okay, so it is a 12 gauge shotgun. Now that it wasn't made in production until 1979. Now then, when reloading the gun in-game, after you finish loading it, you pump it. Now then, the only time you would actually pump it is if it was in pump mode, like in Modern Warfare 2 and 3. However, when semi-auto mode is activated, you would actually hold it, pretend this is it, you would actually cock it back instead of pumping it. On top of that, in one of the missions, when you use the Dragon Buff ammo, you would actually use it with the pump mode due to low gas production from the round actually being fired. So wouldn't have enough gas to actually be able to pull back the ejection port, or the ejection, wouldn't be able to eject because of the low gas, so you had to pump it out. So that's actually a factual error. And on top of that, with Modern Warfare 2 and 3, the gun is shown with its trying to think of the correct term to use here, because there's different names for it depending on what model it is. It is not the pistol grip, it is the, we'll just call it a stock, because that's a foldable stock. That's basically what it is, although there's a much more scientific name I didn't write down for it. In Black Ops, it is always folded up, where you can actually see down it, and when you look down it, it actually has no metal bar in there. The actual one has a metal bar in there. Treyarch actually mentioned that they made it that way so players can actually aim down it while moving around. Now then, in Modern Warfare 2 and 3, the gun is actually folded down. And like I said, it's pumped action. It could be both. It's just a little switch you click, and it could be pumped to semi-auto. Now, semi-auto mode would be used for like the 12 gauge rounds. Pump would be used for Dragon Breath. Would not be used for 12 gauge rounds. It would actually be used for 12 gauge. Trying to think of the word here. That basically describes them all, but I guess I'll list them individually. It would be used for like 12 gauge non-lethal slugs, or beanbags, or anything like that. You want to use the low powers, that's what you use the pump for. So that's also a factual error for the Spaz 12 in Modern Warfare 2 and 3. And we're at 14 minutes, so moving on from the Spaz 12. Okay, the next one is the Ichita 37, which is called the Stakeout. It's a 12 gauge, however it was not made until 1981. Now then we got the KS-23, which is a 23 millimeter. It holds 3 rounds plus 1, where in the game it holds 6 rounds. And this gun was only available during the first level of Black Ops, I believe. Or that one in the Prison Breakout. Now then, again, I really should mark numbers down here. The next one we have is the Winchester Model 1887. Now this was used in Modern Warfare 2, 3, I believe Yes, it was used in 3. And, of course, it's used in Black Ops during the prison escape mission. Now then, if you actually paid attention to your movie history, this is the same shotgun used by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator movie. However, the magazine barrel is actually mistaken for another barrel, so Treyarch actually had it to where you shoot 2 rounds out before you had to reload it, when in all actuality, you're supposed to shoot 1 round out, pull the lever, and then fire another one. So that's actually a factual error. And on top of that, and this is for both Black Ops and Modern Warfare 2 and 3, the Winchester Model 1887 has been discontinued since 1920. Has not been used since then, except for movie props. So, explain how a antique weapon like that is used even in a modern warfare, where you have the modern day weapons. Doesn't really make sense. Okay, so now we got the HK-21E. Now then, Heckler & Koch 21E is a 7.62 by 51 NATO, and the HK-21 was developed in 1961, was actually used. However, the HK-21E was not developed until 1980. Okay, now we got the M60. Now, before you say anything, yes, the M60 was actually created in 1950. However, the model used in the game is the M60E3, which is a 7.62 by 51mm NATO, and was not invented until 1986. So the model used in the game was created in 1986. However, on the choppers you see throughout the game, those actually do have the correct model of the M60. Now then, we got the RPK-74, which is a 5.45 by 39mm, and that was actually created in 1974. Now then, this one's a doozy. We have the Accuracy International Arctic Warfare Magnum. Now then, this gun is actually wrongly labeled as, where did I put that at? As the L96A1. The L96A1 is a 7.62 by 51mm, and that was created in 1981. And other variations was created in 1982. So, and the actual AIAWM, as it's abbreviated, I actually wrote out the full name, is a .38 Lupa Magnum. So yeah, these two guns were not created nowhere near the Vietnam era war, and weren't even designed the same way. So to call this gun the L96A1, totally wrong. Because I've seen pictures of both, and they look somewhat similar, so a mistake could have easily been made by Treyarch. But the two guns are completely different by caliber and size and weight. Now then, we got the Heckler & Koch PSG-1. Now this is the last rifle you unlock in Black Ops. On multiplayer, whatever that is, a 7.62 by 51mm NATO. It was created in the 1970s and is actually modeled after the Heckler & Koch SR9, which was made in the 1990s. Come on, Treyarch. Like you just threw a bunch of guns together that look gold. Or took a bunch of guns, changed them a little differently, named them something else, and still weren't even the right time period. Now, the WAD 2000 is a 300 Winchester Magnum. That thing is very powerful, although it is pretty weak in the game. However, it wasn't designed until 1982, and the design itself wasn't until the late 70s. Now then, the China Lake is a 46 by 46 millimeter grenade, and in the multiplayer mode only, you only see it holding 2 rounds. In all actuality, it should be able to hold 4 rounds, so they cheated you out of 2 rounds. Now then, we got the M72 Law. This is a 60mm rocket, And the gun itself was actually used in the Vietnam War. However, the model displayed in-game wasn't actually designed until... where did I put that at? Wasn't designed until the 2000 era. So yeah, that one's definitely way off. And it cannot actually lock onto aircraft or vehicles. That technology wasn't really that good back then. Now then, we got the M20A1 Flash. This is the, I believe it is just called the M20A1 in the actual game. But this is actually a 66mm, and it cannot actually lock on to vehicles or aircraft, as in the game. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is actually nicknamed the Grim Reaper. Now I remember. Okay, so it can't lock onto any vehicles or aircraft, and wasn't actually used by the U.S. military, who created it, until 1978. And even then, it was only designed to shoot incendiary rounds, not explosive rounds. And even in the game, when you reload it, during one of the single-player mission levels, you can actually see the incendiary rounds being put in. Those are not designed to blow up tanks or aircraft. Okay, the SA-14 Gremlin. This is the anti-aircraft gun, also known as the Valkyrie, which is the modified version of it in the game. Is a 70mm rocket-propelled launcher, and wasn't created until 1974. Then we got the AGS-36 automatic grenade launcher machine gun. Now this can be seen on several levels, mounted to the vehicles. It fires a 30mm round and was not created until 1990. Come on, Treyarch. 2000 era, 1990s. Okay, now we got the BMG-71 TOW. Now this can be seen on several Jeeps during several missions. And it fires a 1.52mm rocket and was not designed until 1972. Now the M1A1 Claymore was actually designed and used during the Vietnam War. However, it was manually detonated. As shown in the game, it uses proximities and lasers. Now there's two things wrong with that. First off, we didn't have that technology back in the Vietnam War. And second, even if we did, there's no reflector, so how would it know if it tripped or not? A typical modern-day Claymore that uses proximity detections, you have the Claymore here and a reflector here. And then you have a light that goes in the middle and bounces back. If that light is disturbed, then the Claymore would explode. But since this has no reflectors, how does it know if it's being triggered or not? Okay. Now we have the M67 hand grenade. Now this was used during the Vietnam War, however, it wasn't commonly used until 1969 after the Vietnam War as the standard issue grenade for the United States military. Now then we got the GP-25, which is a 40mm grenade round. That is the under attachment for some of the guns in the multiplayer mode and single player campaign. That was not actually designed until 1978. The GSN-19, which is a 30mm. Now this one you would see like under the AK-47, which again did not exist, was not invented until 1970. And the Knight's Armament Master Key underbarrel shotgun was not even thought of until 1980, and that is a 12 gauge. And then finally, we have the M203A1 grenade launcher, which is an under attachment for the M16 and M16, and it uses a 40 by 40mm grenade round, and that wasn't developed until 1969 after the Vietnam War ended. So yeah, none of these guns should be in the game, and of course the factual errors of these guns, even the guns that weren't supposed to be in the game. Treyarch, you really need to do your research. I mean, there are so many guns that could have replaced this that were actually used by U.S. soldiers, Russian soldiers, during the Vietnam War. But instead, you didn't use any of those cool guns. And actually, if you do look some of them up, to get this information, I used the International Movie Firearm Database. So that has all the guns used in movies, mangas, animes, video games, TV shows, and of course movies and comic books. So there, go give that a check out, and it will tell you everything I just told you. But, in all honesty, Triarch, you should have used that. Then you could have actually found some weapons made during that time that were actually used by the United States military. So then, please subscribe, leave comments. If you want to see me do a factual list for other games, I know I got one set up for a Sniper Elite that I'm going to be doing, or Sniper Elite Nazi Zombie Army, which is basically the same gun used in Sniper Elite V2, so either way, same game, I guess. Because they actually didn't have that listed on IMDb. But the weapons used in the game are the same weapons used in the V2, just after you buy all the DLCs. So I'll definitely be doing that game, but if there's any games that you know for a fact that the weapons do not match the game's time period, or are portrayed wrongly, let me know and I'll do my research on those guns for that game, and I will help verify it for you. And as always, have a nice day, live, love, game on, and since today's date is the 31st of December, Happy New Year's.